The temperatures dropped below freezing last night. I was not concerned about the daffodils. This is where they have been being housed, and this is where they continue to grow. And they're going to be perfectly fine. These daffodils are going to still bloom. And I left the birch logs in place. I put the daffodil in the middle, and then I dressed the outside of the container with Spanish moss. The reason being, I wanted to simulate a transition from our winter garden right into our spring, and I felt like it would be very fitting to go in and use the Spanish moss versus coming in with the green. The moss is tacked down by some landscape staples to secure the Spanish moss in place. That way, if we get a strong wind, it's not going to blow the moss everywhere. Sometime nature will determine the next step for us in our garden. A plan of a beautiful arrangement. We're also going to bump up some seedlings that were in soil blocks that fell over. Don't worry, they're okay. But before we jump into planting up this beautiful springtime arrangement that's going to be packed full of not only color, but also plants, clear off this top shelf so I can make room for seedlings. Calla lilies, some tulips, some daisy mums, and we also use a pothos. When I am doing my arrangements for indoors and in containers, there is no rules, because right now I'm looking for the rhythm of this pothos to give me the look that I want. With the calla lilies, you will start to see as the bloom matures, the length of the stem will lengthen. Stake them in as I did, or you can just cut them back. And the immature blooms, as the stem lengthens, it will give you the look that you're going for. Left this in its place, and then we'll take care of those soil blocks, seedlings that tipped over. I don't know which variety they are, so I am going to go ahead and I'm just going to label them unknown. And as they start to grow, I can pick the little tube. I'll show you guys what I use to pot up my soil blocks. Let's get this in its place. Here's a look at the soil blocks that we dropped. Some of them, as you see here, focus, are coming apart. Now, I guess I could go in and kind of just mush them back together, but it's harder to keep these watered when they break apart like this. Now, let's bump them up. Real easy here. I have some simple potting soil, and we're just going to take the potting soil. We are going to just add a little bit of water inside there. They're mixed up. see, I'm just taking the soil and just putting the soil down inside of our containers here. Big into making sure I keep something in bloom on the inside of my home. So the collection that I'm working on now is certainly getting me prepped for spring. It's certainly going to be bringing a lot of those spring vibes because I am ready for spring, but officially we have about 6 more weeks. I don't want to wait 6 weeks. So I come in, I do different collections around my home. The theme right now is going to be spring. Valentine's Day is right around the corner, and I love to go in around Valentine's Day and just use different flowers. Tulips, of course, is one of the great ones that you can use around Valentine's Day. Cyclamen is another one because cyclamen comes in those colors that speak the love language. If you're into doing more of the traditional look for Valentine's Day. But you guys, I have the most gorgeous collection of hydrangeas right here. These do not speak spring, then I am not sure what speaks spring to you. For this collection, we're going to be taking this lime tree down off the table, and she's not going outside. She's not going into another room. I am just going to move her onto a table. Our display of hydrangeas are going on the table, and I'm excited to show you guys what container we're going to be using. Of this table, but it's not going to stay simplistic for long. It's a dilemma. The table's cleared off, but now we got to go get the containers that's going up here. One of the containers is outside, and I think the other container is in the garage. I'm not sure, and I certainly hope the container is not in storage, because if it is, then we're going to go another route, which I love containers, and baby, I got some containers now. I definitely got some containers. But the vibe that I'm trying to give, the containers that I'm thinking about, it's a simple container, and it's going to be easy for you to source and easy for you to find. So let's get the containers on the table.
Yeah. It's heavy. Famous love.
just in the nick of time. I popped my last viola in my concrete urns, and after I popped them in the concrete urns, the wind started blowing. I was looking around, Penelope was looking around, and out of nowhere the rain just started coming down, and baby, we had to get out of here. So excited to have this spring color in my garden, which, you guys, I've actually been planting out since January, February. This year I'm really feeling the blushes, the pinks, the roses, the creams, the soft blues. Hellebore is so beautiful and elegant. Here we have our viola here. Then we have our dianthus. We have the beautiful foliage from the Gauthera, which contrasts perfectly with this beautiful green foliage, not only in color but also in texture. And then you have the beautiful leaf of the hellebore here. Even our stem is complementing our color scheme. And then you lead right on up to this beautiful delicate bloom of the hellebore. And it's a hit. It's a 100% hit. And what I like about the hellebores is, depending on the positioning of the flower, like this one right here, you can definitely see this is the back of the flower right here. But you can see the color, and this is just all based off of the positioning of the hellebore here. So it's very beautiful. It's elegant, and I love the structure. And also with the dianthus, one of the beautiful things about using the dianthus, using the Gauthera, using the hellebore, as well as the viola, these can all be planted out into the garden, and they can actually live on as a perennial. But I have certain, you know, I have a vibe in the way that I do things in my garden. Let's start planting up these containers, and I want to show you guys the beautiful plants that's going in, and we'll go and get the rest of the plants. First up, macrophylla hydrangeas is going to definitely bring the spring vibes that I really love to have in my garden. They're beautiful, and they have those beautiful hues of purple. We have our daffodils, and these are the tete-a-tete variety, so they grow on the smaller side. So even though they make a big impact in color, they're small in stature. Then we have some beautiful violas. Let's see if we can see what variety this is. So this is, focus, Penny Primrose Picotee. Put that back in there for reference. We have our beautiful pansies here. This variety right here is one of my favorites. It is the Matrix Primrose Pansy. That soft, beautiful yellow color that I just love in my garden. We have our classic white pansy. Beautiful, and it has the yellow inside. And this is a matrix white pansy. Alyssum. We have a Dusty Miller. You guys, I love to use my good friend Dusty Miller here. We also have another light blue matrix pansy. We have some beautiful daffodils. Now the daffodils that are back here in these planters over here, they have actually been here since we planted them up in the video earlier here on the channel. This was our transitional color. It took us from the winter time into the early spring. Came in, we completely dismantled our winter arrangement here. We left our burst log, and we popped a daffodil inside of these planters where they went through some horrid temperatures, some frigid temperatures outside, and they still did okay. We underdressed the bottom of these containers with some moss to, one, help keep the roots of the daffodil warm, and then also just to dress it up. And we wanted it to be simple and elegant. Now that I have my hydrangeas gone, if I didn't put anything in its place, The daffodils, these are basically getting ready to go over because they have been in bloom for quite some time and they have been absolutely wonderful. The burst logs have to go because they have been out here for 2 seasons. So they were out here for winter and then it took us in our transitional. So we're definitely not going to bring them into our spring display, although it would be absolutely gorgeous to keep them inside of this container. You know what, we're gonna leave that alone because I was getting ready to give you another container recipe, but I'm gonna leave it alone, honey. That's for another video. So let's pull these out and then we'll start planting everything up because I am so excited for you guys to see how this is going to look, and I think you're going to love what we're getting ready to do in this area. You know what? Why am I cleaning out these containers when all I really have to do is bring in a remote? Where's my remote? Well, all right. Okay. Now that is how you clean out some containers. Now, the only thing we need the remote to do is plant these containers up. Hold on. Something must be wrong with the battery. You know what? And I'm fresh out of battery. So I guess this time I'm going to have to plant these containers up myself. So let's get to it. So we're going to come back in with a daffodil. Ooh. Okay. Worries? Now, what we do on one side, we're also going to do on the next. The show that we're going to have this summer for our hydrangeas is going to depend on the way that we prune them. I've done videos in the past where I talk about how I prune my hydrangeas, which variety, which type, when not to prune or deadhead my hydrangeas. Now, these hydrangeas here are incredible hydrangeas. They give the most beautiful show in the summertime, and it actually starts in the late spring and it takes us all the way through until they make their transition, how they start off white and then they ease on into the green color that I so love, and I am longing to have that show on my garden. I'm going to start by pruning out this hedge of hydrangeas, then we'll move on to planting up some beautiful containers. If we don't get done with everything that we're trying to do today, we'll wait till tomorrow and we'll pick it back up. So let's start pruning these hydrangeas. So I'm just going to come in. I could come here and cut, right? And if I cut it off there, then you'll definitely know that I'm going to have a strong, sturdy stem that's going to keep my hydrangea blooms in check because these blooms get really heavy. The hydrangeas are pruned. Start planting up these containers. Actually, we have about 15 minutes before we lose light. So if we get a break in the rain tomorrow, we'll come outside and we'll plant this area up, which I'm very excited about. And you guys, I have some of the most prettiest flowers. It's going to be very simple. It's definitely going to be giving early spring vibes. So we'll pick this back up tomorrow. You too. OMG. Made a quick stop to go and get some Starbucks real quick. It has been raining all day off and on, and then when it's not raining, the wind is literally blowing about 50 to 60 to 80 to 90 to 200 miles an hour. You guys know the wind is not blowing that hard, but it feels like it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to head home and we'll just work in the sunroom. When I go to Starbucks, I order a pistachio frappuccino. That is my jam. I love pistachios first and foremost, but pistachio and coffee. If you guys have ever tried the pistachio frappuccino from Starbucks, comment down below and let me know. If you don't drink pistachio frappuccinos, let me know, what do you guys drink when you go to Starbucks? Or is Starbucks even your thing? Do you go to like a small coffee house? Because I love my coffees and I love my teas, and I know it's not the best thing for the heart or for the waistline because it is a lot of calories packed in those frappuccinos. But I gotta have them. It's double rainbows. So we seen those beautiful rainbows, and as we were driving home, I noticed that the rain was starting to let up because I was fully prepared to plant these containers on the inside, and I try to work and get things done as I see fit, as they fit into my schedule. I really do not like for this area over here, my seating areas, to be without some type of arrangement in the early spring. So even if it's just an arrangement gracing the table, then that's what I'll do. We use a beautiful hellebore that we found last year on our hellebore hunt. It was in a nursery in Van Buren, Arkansas, near almost like the Oklahoma border, depending on which area you're coming from, in the Fort Smith area. So I've been keeping these in the container since last year. I took you all along with me earlier in the year where we went in, we fertilized our hellebores, and you guys, the hellebores over here on Garden Queen are looking absolutely amazing. I circled them around with some beautiful violas. This speaks early spring to me. All of these early spring plants can take the weather fluctuations, and they have been acclimated to the weather outside. So I'm not worried about them. We do have some days it's going to be in the 50s, in the 60s, and we do have some nights it's going to drop down in the teens. right, so I am going to switch this because that one, it looks a little bit aged. I'm going to come in and I'm going to split this tulip, you guys. I want just one tulip in the front. I'm really feeling like this blue is going to take this over the top. And it is lightly raining, but baby, I got to do what I got to do. It stopped raining, so let's pick up where we left off. Hellebore, cyclamen, dianthus, tulip, and I went ahead and I popped a pansy in there, that light blue matrix shade, because I like for each area to flow. A lot of movement in this container, okay? By design. And yes, it's still lightly raining, honey. I don't care. And no, I'm not worried about my hair. How about that? Okay, so we have a lot of movement in this container. And some of the stuff I am going to cut out because sometimes when you have plants that's waiting to be planted up, they will end up starting to look a little bit tattered. Sometimes they'll dry out. It's just the nature of the beast, and you guys. My entire greenhouse, aka sunroom, literally looks like a mini nursery. That's just the flavor of everything that's going on over here on Garden Queen. Okay, so can you guys see the flow? Okay, now I want you guys to check the tulips here. You see how I have the tulips draping? This is not something that I only use in my potted containers, but I also use the same technique when I do cut flower containers with tulips. If we rewind back to last season, I showed you guys how I like to use tulips instead of dropping a penny. I prefer to just pull the tulip up and continue to cut the stem length the way you want it to be, but I like to use the tulip as it drapes here. All right, so basically you see the same thing all around the container, and you guys, I'm really loving this. It's deliciously packed for the season here, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. So this is our first container, so we're going to go ahead and get that container in its place. We may not be able to make it through the whole entire video, you guys, because this weather's cutting up. Next, let me show you guys real quick. Okay, can you guys see that? Slow cam, and it's heavy.
Let me show you guys real quick. Okay, can you guys see that? Slow cam, and it's heavy.
It's right here. I'm gonna cut off. I'll show you what that looks like. Just kind of tattered, so I can do one of two things. I can come in, I can cut it here, or I can go all the way back down, and I'm gonna just take that off, because then that way it lets more of the violas here shine. No worries, goes to the bin. All right, let me see if there's anything else I need to cut. Now, as these tulips start to fade a little bit more, I'll just have the foliage and it'll still be perfect. So let's get the next container on here. Let me know what y'all think about this pop of blue here. Oh, let me go ahead. Now, with your cyclamens, you guys, if you're using cyclamens inside of your containers, if you're using cyclamens, don't throw them away. Your cyclamens, your amaryllis, your dahlias, you know, there's always going to be somebody in the comment to try to correct how you pronounce them. Hey, I am who I am. I'm where I'm from, and I say dahlia. Just like I say hellebore, and actually hellebore, just all depends on where you're from. Tomato. So, cyclamen will live for a very long time. So we're going to go down, we're going to cut this out. Here is a cyclamen, right? So we potted this up. This didn't used to look like this, but what you do, because I haven't pulled all of my cyclamens yet, I have a bag where my cyclamens go in. You can easily take off the top foliage, and then you dig out your cyclamen here. Right here, you can go ahead, rinse them off, let them dry out, but that's typically what I like to save. Whew, honey, all in the name of helping you save money, honey. Now I'm going to set this in its place. Beautiful. Now let's do the next one. So we did a cyclamen, we have our violas here, we did a dianthus, we did our tulips, we still have our flow, and then in the back we just came in and we adorned this with tulips. Now let's get this one in its place. It's raining. Anytime you guys can get pot feet, go ahead, get the pot feet to go with your planters. We have a planter, and we have a cyclamen with the white accent, right? Can we say gorgeous? Alright, can you guys see that? Alright, now, baby, it's raining and I ain't got time to be buying no new camera. Alright, y'all. Y'all seen the first container, second container, and third container. Baby, it's time to get out of here, honey. Woo! Woo! First plant we're going to be using, we're going to come in with hellebores. Hellebore will be a great plant that you can use in order to take you over. I am not going to be doing anything with these root balls because these are going to be part of my transitional color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the root ball intact, and then when I go to plant these in their final place in my garden, then I'll go in and I'll manipulate the root ball a little bit. I'm going to turn this, clean this off. This looks absolutely gorgeous. It looks amazing. But I want this to be full because I want to really bring the heat. I could come in and stop right here, but I'm not because I want this to be really, really full. Crocus, anyone? Primrose, anyone? Creeping Jenny. One thing about late winter, early spring, well, we're still in the winter, it get dark so quick, so we'll pick this back up in the morning. I'm gonna fill these containers up with some fresh garden soil. In the summertime, in the spring, depending on what season we're in, I will reuse my soil in my containers. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, let's say if there has been some type of infestation, then I will go in and I'll remove the soil out and start with fresh soil, because you definitely don't want to carry over a problem from one season to the next, and you don't know if any insects have set up base. But one of the things that I like about spring containers, with the spring containers, if there is some type of infestation going on, it's going to show its head when the first plants go in there. So this soil has been sitting here. It's pretty good. And see, you can even see where I have those old root balls in there. But these containers are really thick. So you can come in and take off this top layer and compost it, and then start with new fresh soil from there. So sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. It just all depends. So more than likely, yeah, I'll take this soil out right here. This is the amount of soil that I'm going to pull out. And then I'll just fill up this with fresh soil. Now, this looks like a lot of soil, but keep in mind that once we come in and we water this, this is going to compact a little bit, and the plant should be able to fit in there just perfect. This turned spring really quick. You guys, I'm loving this burst of color in the late winter. But for us in the St. Louis region, we have been basically in our spring. The high today was about 67, maybe even, I think I looked at my thermostat and it was 69 degrees at one point today. So for me, I take advantage of when I have times like this in my garden and I come out and I like to plant. And that is the beauty of container gardening, because you really can make your area be what you want it to be in just the instant. Now, before I came out here and I started planting, it was totally looking drab out here. We came in, we brought in some spring color, and our color focus today was chartreuse. The chartreuse of this beautiful hellebore. Now, there are certain plants that you can plant when your temperatures may not be steady enough for you to put out those regular spring loving annuals. But hellebores is a perfect one to start with. So let's discuss what we have in these containers. So we have hellebore, we have crocus, we have creeping jenny, and then we have violas, and then we also have some beautiful primrose here. Now, in each one of these containers, we did a variation of both, but our two front containers are the only two containers that have everything in them. The rest of the containers are a mix of some sort, like for example, this container right here. Beautiful combination, you guys. Now, all of the containers in this area have a round obelisk on them. So we have our obelisk, we have our hellebore, crocus, creeping jenny, But then we came in, and instead of using the viola, we brought that touch of bluish purple, blurple if you will, and with using a pansy. This container is also mirrored over here. So the same thing here on this container as well. Our container right here, very simple. We use hellebores, and then we also use the blue pansy. It's a true blue matrix pansy here. And while I'm here, I'm going to just go ahead and water these in a bit. Same thing here with this container. We use the true blue matrix pansy. It's a really big pansy, and it goes really well against this crocus. You guys can see the excellent contrast here, as well as the texture. This hellebore starts off as a creamy white, more so on the white sides, and then on the inside of it you can see where you have some beautiful chartreuse on the inside, and then that hint of pinkish purple here, and it goes very well including the stem color, because you also have to take into account the stem color when you're looking at color coordination and color arrangements. Now for this container right here, absolutely amazing. Hellebore, primrose, and viola makes up the entirety of this container. We also have a round obelisk here as well. Now you guys, with hellebores, they are extremely sensitive. If you start to notice that your hellebore is drooping, you want to go ahead and you want to hydrate it. I've done videos in the past where I talk about how you go in and you hydrate your hellebore. There will be some maintenance on these containers. Now the hellebores, as the stems start to age, and I'm not using them for arrangements, because when you use hellebores in arrangements, if you have those older stems, they're absolutely perfect to cut and put into a vase, and you just condition them. They work out really well, especially when the flower has aged some. But for the primrose, I'll also be going in with the primrose, and I'll be trimming the primrose back. So you guys, drop down in that comment box. Let me know what you think about this beautiful arrangement. You guys, when I'm telling you, it feels like springtime. So why not make it look like springtime here in the garden? tulips are not viable. They're real small, and you're not going to get a bloom off of a tulip bulb that's this small. So these are left over from last season, so we're going to continue to clean up this bed. Cardboard wet, we're just going to simply spread some mulch, and then we're going to get a table in place. Look at these beautiful ranunculus. I mean, just gorgeous, and it's going to fit in with our beautiful color scheme that we have going on. So let's jump right into it and let's plant these babies up. Let's get to it. For me, I did not go in and refill this entire container with soil, because if you're doing that, you're going to spend a lot of money in soil each year, when that money can be put towards making you have an excellent show. So when I do my containers like this, I go ahead and I put in slow release fertilizer. So we're going to put a little bit of slow release fertilizer inside of here, because we want these ranunculus to bloom out as long as we can get them to. Beautiful ranunculus. We use the Delta mix, and with the Delta mix, this is what's going on here. You can see the different variations of pansies. So we have kind of like a lilac one, and then it has a little bit of the purple throat. Then you have like that beautiful like periwinkle blue here. So we have the periwinkle blue, and then you can see how they kind of just fade to give you the cotton candy vibe. Used about maybe a flat and 12 cells of the Delta cotton candy mix in these containers. Now, although it is slightly raining outside, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to water my containers in extremely well. One of the things you guys want to remember about watering your plants in the springtime. Now, traditionally, you will not need to water your plants as much as you would think in the springtime because the weather is cooler, so the heat is not drying them out. So you kind of just want to just take it and do it as needed with each container. So just kind of stick your hand in there. But if you have a night or a day where your plants are getting absolutely pelted by the wind, go outside, hit your containers with some water, and that way you guys can continue on to have a healthy show. Let's start working on getting these leaves out of here in this area, because if it's up to me, I want to just go ahead and get all of my garden maintenance done for today, and then we can focus on beautifying the garden and getting ready for our spring show. It's officially spring, so let's go ahead and let's start getting these leaves up. We have 4 containers. We have 2 junipers, 2 lollipops, and then we have 2 arborvitae spirals, which typically I generally do not do arborvitaes because I feel like they're very easy to die. But in this scenario, because they were shaped up pretty, they were beautiful, I just went ahead and I snagged these 2 arborvitaes. And they grow big, so I let them grow out a little bit last year, but this year I'm going to come in and I'm going to shape them. I'm not going to shape the junipers right now, and I'm not going to shape the arborvitae right now because this is not the time, because our temperatures are flexing back and forth. I'm going to wait about maybe 2 weeks or so, and then I'll go in and I'll trim these up. The juniper right here, it does look like it's on its last leg, but sometimes with junipers you have to give them the opportunity to show you if they're going to live or die, and then at that time I will go in and I will shape them back. Now I could go in and I could shape these up right now, but it's going to increase my risk of burn to the foliage. It's also going to increase my chances of death to this one right here that looks like it's on its last leg. And that is not uncommon for your evergreens to have a little bit of brown color during the winter time, and you can see it as evident by this one right here in the window box. Let's start off by going into the base. At the base here, I have some heucheras. I'm going to trim this all the way back. You can see the new growth that's starting to form for this season here. So we'll just go in and we'll clean this up. Follow all the way back down, and I just trim very easy. The soil level in all of these pots are lower than what it needs to be. So this probably has cost us a lot of money, but it won't be very expensive to replace. We need to fertilize all of the heucheras, and then we'll go in and we'll raise the soil level. Okay, so we're just going to come in around each one and just give it a little bit of fertilizer. Even the ones that do not look like much, we're going to also hit them with some fertilizer as well. To beat the rain, because we are supposed to be getting some rain today, but there are so many things that I just have to get done. Like, I can't keep putting it on and then turning it off based off the weather. I'm going to start getting the leaves up in this area. Now over here in this area, this is where kind of like our dog's playground. Well, really the whole garden is our dog's playground. So the leaves that we have here, they won't be being composted because nobody wants that in their compost. So what we're going to do is we're just going to rake everything up. Summertime, this area over here, this section of my garden that I never really have you guys in, is going to look completely different. So we'll start off by raking everything up. Now I want to know, how do you guys do your leaves? Do you come in with a leaf blower, or do you like to, you know, get a little bit of physical exercise by coming out here with the rake? So for me, I need the physical exercise. I mean, don't get cute in them comments now. Don't get cute in the comments, but I need the physical exercise. And I like to just hear the rake as the rake hits against the ground. And it's just something about that that takes me back to my childhood days. You know, it kind of provides that sense of comfort, the sense of serenity that I so much love, and it really just makes everything peaceful. See what the problem is? The longer that you guys have hydrangeas, you will start to see that there is an insect that goes down on the inside of your hydrangea. Can you see where they entered in at? Can you guys see that hole? Okay, so this is where the insect entered in at, and you just take it all the way down and see you have another one right here. And then so I cut it all the way down. You can see it was starting to make its way to the end here. That's normal for hydrangeas. Okay, so down at the base here, we don't see anything burrowing down at the base. Let me show you guys. All right, so same thing right here. So I went ahead, I cut that all the way back. Same thing from this one right here. And so what I'm going to do is, actually there are entry points, branch right here. So this branch here, right here where you see this beautiful Y, all of this needs to be cut down to about right here, and it's no point in doing that, so I would just go ahead and just take it all the way down right there. So what I'm going to do is, I know I have to come back and cut this off, so I will not leave any type of, I'm gonna just leave the blooms on this one right here. And that's the big chunk of my show. hydrangea standard right here is how I want my other hydrangea standards to look. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to pause on pruning those hydrangeas, because as I continue to prune the standard hydrangeas, I found so many pieces of wood that's burrowed. So those hydrangeas might not even make an appearance this season in my garden. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put that on pause. We are getting ready to plant up some containers over here in this area. First, clean out the remnants from last season, and then we'll start moving the containers in place, and then we'll go ahead and start planting these up. This obelisk, we're going to be using these in these containers. I love to use obelisk in my containers whenever I have the opportunity to do such. So whenever I buy my obelisk, I like to buy them in pairs of 3. So let's get these babies inside of these containers here. We are done. We have a variety of pinks and purples. You can see the silver and the blue coming through. We used the New Look Dusty Miller. This is the regular Dusty Miller. And then we also used the New Look here. Let me scoot back so you guys can see what they look like. Wait a minute. The obelisk, amazing. All 3 of them are the same. And I just love it. I can't wait till everything blooms out. Water provides insulation to the plants, to the roots, and so when those temperatures are going down low, if you put your plant away and you have not given your plant any water, then what is going to happen is you're going to freeze dry your plant, and it's going to make it harder for your plant. It's going to struggle, and it will not last you as long. You guys, I have had arrangements that I planted up in the late winter, very, very early spring, and it lasted me all the way until I transitioned my spring containers out for summer. I really could take these and cut these in half. So we got 4 layers on here. prune these hydrangeas. In front of the strawberry shake hydrangeas, I have some perennial alliums, and then in front of the alliums, I have some coreopsis. Now the alliums, I've went in and I've thickened those up throughout the season to where I'll have a good, beautiful, nice show with those. I'm absolutely amazed at the show that they give. The coreopsis, I actually bought that at a plant sale that someone in the neighborhood was having. Coreopsis has been in this bed for, I want to say, about 13, 14 years. We'll go ahead, we'll start with the hydrangea, we'll move on to the alliums, then we'll move on to the coreopsis. The cold weather has now passed. What I want to do is I want to start to work on the way that this ground looks. I went back and forth for the last 2 to 3 years, actually about 4 years. I've been wanting to come in and just add gravel back here to this area. After I went back and I thought about it, I think it's best that for me and my family and my pets here, that we're going to go in and we're just going to do some mulch. Now, since this is such a large area and we still do have patches of grass that are coming up, what we're going to do is we are going to sheet mulch this area similar to what we did over in the cut flower garden, but instead of using cardboard, we're going to be using this ram board here. You should be able to find this ram board at your local garden center. It's going to make it a lot easier to do a large area like this.
Wish that I could stay in this moment forever, so I can hold you in my arms. I will carry you on my shoulders as long as I'm